welcome back to my channel. This is the second video in a three-part series on suicide. Today we're going to be talking about how to create a safety plan. There's a few different ways to make a safety plan. They all follow a very typical structure like this, and I am going to link a PDF form of this safety plan at the bottom of the video that you can download and print out and fill out for yourself if you want to. In my last video, I talked a lot more about suicide and explained the different levels of suicidal intensity and talked about how when intensity is high, it really is just a crisis to survive and get through. And part of creating a safety plan is how to stay safe. And part of that is thinking about if there are risks available to you, or like what are the lethal means if you did have something in mind, because that's going to be something that you need to remove in order to keep yourself safe. Like that might mean having someone hang on to your medication for you so you don't have a whole month of it on hand, or it might mean putting a timed lock on your handgun, or it could mean distance between you and the lethal means that you had in mind. That's step one. The second part is that can be filled out on the form. The next part is to identify what your own warning signs are, how you know that your suicidal intensity is on the rise, and that is going to be different for everybody. So you need to think about it and do some self-reflection and put that on there so that you can be aware and know when it's happening. Another part of that is identifying if you have triggers that are going to lead to that, then maybe trying to decrease those triggers or know that they can happen, and so that you can be prepared. The next part of creating a safety plan is writing down a list of coping skills to use when you are in crisis. And coping skills are something that help you decrease discomfort and suffering so that you can get through the crisis. Sometimes people think that coping skills solve the problem, and they really don't. Oftentimes, problems are solved by making changes, and that usually takes time. And so the coping skills are there so that you can get through the suffering and discomfort of the moment. And a lot of times it doesn't take away all of the discomfort, it more reduces it to a manageable level, which is what they're there for. So you know they're working right if that's what's happening. And I find too that sometimes stacking coping skills is helpful. So if you have in your list that reading a book is a very good distraction when you're upset, and then you also, it feels good to take a bath, and that's not one of your risk factors, and you also like drinking tea that's soothing and helps you feel good, you can stack those and drink tea in the bath while you read a book. And that increases the potency of the coping skills. There's a lot of different types of coping skills. I'm actually going to make a video in the future all about coping skills and how to use them. But for now, come up with things that, or Google it, and have a list of your own coping skills at hand to know that you can use when you're in a crisis. That's the next step. After that, something really important to have on the safety plan is a call list of people, friends and family members that can be with you so that you're not alone. Sometimes using the coping skills gets you through the crisis enough and you don't necessarily need to call someone. But if you're not feeling safe, one of the best things to do is have someone there to support you and help you and help keep you safe. When coming up with that list, sometimes you can have a little bit of anxiety because you're already thinking about when that might happen and like who you would call. And that can be nerve-wracking because it's like, what am I even going to say to them? Or what are we going to do? What can they do that can help? And really, you don't have to worry too much about that. The point is just to not be alone and do something that is like relaxing and feels kind of good. So that could mean having a friend come over and just watching a movie together, or, you know, hanging out. You don't even have to talk about what's going on. Sometimes talking about it helps you feel better. But if you want to just sit and watch a movie, that's okay. So have that list of friends and family members that can support you when you're in a crisis. And then the next part underneath that is a list of professionals. So if you already have a therapist, then that is someone that you would probably want to put on your safety plan. Also, if your therapist's office has an emergency number, that can go on there. Your local emergency room is a good number to put on there, because if your risk is very high, and then you need to go to the emergency room so that they can help you there. Also, another thing to put on there is like crisis support groups and 24-hour hotlines. And I am also going to link some of those down below. They're just for the US. If you are outside of the US, I encourage you to look into what those numbers are for yourself and put them on your safety plan. Those are things that can be filled out, and that is a really like classic safety plan. I think that most hospitals or counseling offices, or if you learn about safety planning at like a training, that is going to be the typical things to put in a safety plan. But something else that I want to add before ending this video is that really your main goal is to get through that intensity. And so if your mind is stuck in a destructive place, you have to find a way to put a skip in the record. And one of those ways is to hop in a cold shower. That triggers something in our body called the mammalian dive response, and it helps increase our self-preservation instinct. So get in some really cold water, put really cold water on your face. Hugging a loved one can help decrease that intensity. I mean, like a long hug with some deep breaths. Petting like a cat or your dog or one of your other pets can be really calming and soothing and help you get through that very high intensity too. Maybe while you're like waiting for your friend to get there. Other things. Oh, I had mentioned before in the previous video that there has been a lot of research done on people who have survived suicide. And part of that research is like, well, what is helpful? What helped you get through that? Because other people need to know about that stuff so they can get through it. And something that a lot of people have found helpful is to have some kind of emergency kit available. Some groups and organizations have started calling this a hope box or a hope kit, based on kits sent with soldiers overseas so that they have memories and ways to feel connected to back home, because it's a protective factor. And so there are ways to make that for yourself. And when you're feeling very, very depressed or you're feeling suicidal, you can open up that kit and it will have, you can put whatever you want in it, but what is going to remind you to have hope, and what's going to remind you of your purpose, and going to remind you of the loved ones that care about you, because that's going to be where the impact would be the biggest. And one of the biggest reasons you need to stick around is for your loved ones. And so putting them in an emergency kit can be really helpful. Also, you can put other things in your emergency kit that are going to help in the moment, like chocolate. Put some chocolate in there. Why not? Put a CD of some feel-good music. Put your safety plan in there so you have the numbers of the people that you need to call. But create a kit that is going to help keep you safe when you're feeling like that. And this has been how to create a safety plan. If you have any questions about how to create a safety plan, or have any comments about it, go ahead and leave your questions down below the video. And don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe for more mental health content that's going to help your life go better. Thank you. Bye.